Alright, this is a video talking about how to use Excel. This is going to be a repeat of what we did in class. So the best way to probably use this is if you have a separate computer you could play it on while being able to use Excel on your main computer. That's what I suggest, or possibly using your iPhone or separate device to listen to this video so you can use that computer. Dual monitors is really the best, but whatever you have options, so you can use this at the same time. Alright, so let's just begin with what we did in class. We of course used these variables along with the equation, the fundamental formula for gravity. So you're going to want to review that, but I'm just going to kind of cut to those. Now let's talk about how to place numbers in where you want to. Okay. First thing we're going to start out to talk about is how to maneuver some variables around the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to kind of format your screen to what it is that you need. You'll notice, though, as we've already discussed, that in Excel it is split up into kind of this battleship mentality, that this particular one is B5, this one is A1, and you can see as you click around the screen that the appropriate letter number combination is selected. Also, if you need to organize your columns to be a different size in order to kind of fit what you're doing, you of course can spread them out as much as you want, or the quick shortcut is to double click here on the right side, and that will make the column as large as the largest thing in it, so you could make it bigger and bigger. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about calculations real quick. I'm using, as what I did in class, the exact same practice worksheet, so then that's on the website. So if you want to go there and practice the same thing again for practice, then you can grab that off the website. G here is going to be 6.67. I use the just capital E because that's what Excel uses to distinguish times 10, and that's going to be to the negative 11. The mass 1 here, I just have mass as the Earth, so that's 5.98 e to the 24th. Mass 2 is going to be the mass of the person. That's 70. The first r that we used was the radius of the Earth, or 6.37 e to the 6th. Now before I continue on, I want to adjust these up here. First thing I want to do is make sure and have units. Okay, this is just a really, really good habit to get into ahead of time. So these are all in kilograms. That way I don't have to, of course I can't put letters in with my numbers down here. So I take care of it up in my column. And finally here in newtons. Now I'm going to change 1, going to be a little bit more specific here. I'm going to click on the box, come up here, and change that 1 to Earth. This way later on when I'm looking at it I can remember specifically what I'm doing. I think in class I made this P, I'm just going to actually make that person to kind of fit the same format as Earth here. Now you can see how that could be somewhat confusing for someone who's reading this, who doesn't entirely know what's going on here. So I'm going to, up in the, click on the box, and right up here I'm going to highlight Earth. I'm going to right click, hit Format Cells. Again, like I said in class, since this is a text cell, and it knows that because there are letters in there, it's only giving me the options of font. So I'm just going to hit subscript here, rather. And now I'm going to do that for all of those things that really need to be subscripted. Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to take the small amount of time here to point out that I am actually using on this computer, this is going to be Excel 2010. We used 2013 in class. Those two are very, very similar. There's really only a small amount of differences, some slight positioning things. So you'll be able to find the differences really easy. If you use 10 or 13, this video works extremely well for you. If you, the main issue is, of course, if you use anything below 2010. If that's the case, you're probably going to want to look it up on the internet, or come show me a screenshot of that, and I can kind of walk you through what's different about that. All right. So now that we've got this formatted up here, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this number here. As we talked about in class, formatting numbers so that people understand what's going on is important. What I tried to do is kind of my standard way of organizing numbers is anything within the 10,000 range to 0, or anything from about 0 to 0.1, I use normal notation. So I'm going to right click this box here, format it, and then you'll notice that I have, unlike before when it's a text, I have several options here. I want to come over here to number, and where it says scientific, I'm just going to change this up here to say number. And I'm going to keep that at 2 decimal places. I'm going to hit OK. And you'll notice that now it lists it in just kind of the normal way. Alright, now that we've got those numbers up here, we're going to talk about the formula. First thing you need to note is hit the equal sign when you're telling Excel that you need to create a formula. So you put that equal sign, and we're going to use that equation. You can get that in your notes. That's just the fundamental formula of gravity. So I'm going to take big G first, and I'm going to multiply. You'll notice that in order to get G here, I just clicked on that box. You could also just type in A2. I'm going to multiply, so I'm going to go Shift 8, is that star, multiplied by mass of the Earth, multiplied by mass of the person, and divide by the radius squared. This is the formula that I've created. So Excel knows to take this box times this box times this box and then divide by this box squared. Now you might ask, when do I use parentheses? Well, you basically need to follow your math rules of order of operations. We're going to be fine here because the first thing that happens always is a square root of square root. So the very first thing that's going to happen is that's going to be squared in the function. And then the next thing happens in order is multiplication and division, and that always happens left to right. So these will be all multiplied together before dividing by right down here. So in this particular case, we don't need to use any parentheses, but if you want to be careful, you can. As soon as I'm done here, I want to make sure and hit enter. If I don't, if I click somewhere else, oops, actually it was fine that time. If I'm, like, say, right here working on the equation, if I click somewhere else, it's going to change that box, and I don't want that to happen. So I hit enter first, and go from there, and then you can see that it's given me my answer. Now, as stated before, this is in that range that we talked about. This is 688, so I'm going to format again and change this from scientific to number. And that's how you do that basic calculation. Just the next thing to note, what you're going to do is we are going to increase the radius in order to kind of see what happens. You'll notice if I just take this box and I pull it down, Excel knows to continue the trend, which is I only gave it one number, so that's the trend. It continues. It continues doing the exact same number. What I can do instead there is I can now place what I want to change it by, 6.47 e to the 6th. Oops, I did that wrong. 6.47 e to the 6th. And now you can see that I've increased by 0.1 times 10 to the 6th. I did this in class. You know what? I'm going to change it very slightly here so that we can see a slight different thing. Let's go 6.57 e to the 6th. So now I'm increasing by 0.2 times 10 to the 6th, and Excel can recognize that and then again follow that trend. So you'll notice, of course, we got too much higher numbers because we went up by a greater number. Now, again, whenever you use this bottom right corner of the box, what that tells Excel is to continue doing on down the trend that it is. In this particular case, you'll notice that I have A2, B2, C2, and D2, and that when I pull down, it pulls from the boxes right below, A3, B3, C3, and D3. Now this is fine, of course, with the R column, but in these three cases over here, I have nothing below, and Excel reads empty boxes as zeros, which is why this is listed at 0. So what I need out of this equation, instead, is I need this equation to use just these boxes here. The way to do that with Excel is to put a number sign, a money sign, in front of whatever you don't want to change. Now up and down, as you can see here, we just don't want the number to change, and it'll stay where it's just fine. So actually if we just put a dollar sign in there, we would be okay. But to kind of just make it easier on ourselves, the best way to do it is to click somewhere in this area, somewhere around A2, and then hit F4 on your keyboard. That automatically puts two money signs in front of both, so it automatically is going to pull from right here. It's always going to pull from that cell right there. I'll do the same thing to these two, because I don't want either one of those to change. And then I can hit enter. Again, I should get the same answer. But now when I pull down, it should not move any of these three columns and should only move the D column because it doesn't have a money sign on it. So now I'll go to the right corner and pull down. And you can see my numbers have now changed. And I can continue doing this. I can actually pull right here. Actually, that won't do it. My apologies. The reason that happened is because I only picked that number, so it did not increase at all. So let's redo that. I grab these, pull down. Now you can see it increase from there. And that's how to do calculations with Excel.